This video will focus on catalog management. We start a new 3D scene. Catalog management is unique for IRONCAD, and as we saw earlier, we can drag shapes from this catalog into the scene, and we can also store parts that we have made in these catalogs. In addition to normal shapes that we can use in this catalog, we also have advanced shapes, and there are several different catalogs that you can use when you work with IRONCAD. And you can also make your own catalogs, and if you want to do that, you have to use the Common tab and then the catalog group, and you have a button, New Catalog. You click on that button and you got an empty catalog and it's ready for use. And now you can drag parts from the 3D scene and store them in that catalog. You can also open catalogs, you can close them, and you can save your catalogs. And in this case we will save our new catalog. Click on Save button and we'll name it My Catalog. I have done this before, so I will replace mine. So we click on Save. Yes, I want to replace mine. Okay, and as you can see on the tab, My Catalog, and now it's ready for use. So now it's time for us to draw some parts, and we will use that catalog. If you don't save the catalog, you will lose it when you close this scene file, and you will also lose all parts that are stored in that catalog. So that's why it's important to save it before you close the scene. Well, now we will go to our catalog shapes, and we will drag a cylinder and drop it in the scene, and we select My Catalog. When you have made a part in the 3D scene, you can left drag this part out to the catalog. You can drop it there. As you can see, there's a plus sign at the cursor. That means that you get a copy of that part, and this part is named Part 49, and it's the same name as you can see in the scene browser. Now when we have dragged a part to the catalog, we can also left drag that part into the scene. So we left drag this one and drop it in the scene, and then we got another Part 49, as you can see in the scene browser. So the last one is a copy of the first one. So we select that one and press delete. We select this part, the cylinder, so that we are in IntelliShape mode. And if we now left drag this IntelliShape, left drag and drop it in the catalog, we will see now it has the name cylinder. That's because now it is an IntelliShape. We click on the plus sign and we'll see that this IntelliShape has a name cylinder, and that's the same in the catalog. So it is an IntelliShape. Now we have one part and one IntelliShape in the catalog, and this means that if we left drag this part and drop it in the center of this part, we will get another part. As you see in the scene browser, you've got two parts. And if we left drag this IntelliShape cylinder and drop it on top of that part, and you will see that now it's in IntelliShape mode. And if we deselect, you will see that this IntelliShape will be a part of that Part 49. If we click on this plus sign, we will see we have two IntelliShapes in that part. This means that if you drag a part to the catalog and drag it back to the scene, you will get a part in the scene. And if you drag an IntelliShape from the scene to the catalog, you will get an IntelliShape when you drag it back to the scene. And that's good to know. Next thing that we look at is, first of all, I will select this one and delete. So that if we right drag a part and drop it in the scene, right drag this one and drop it in the center of this part, you will get a pop-up menu, and you will get the question, how will you drop it? Well, if you drop a part, when you right drag, you won't get that pop-up menu because this is a part. But if you right drag IntelliShape, right drag and drop it on this in the center of this one, you will get that pop-up menu, and here you can select if you want to drop it as an IntelliShape feature, as part, or an assembly feature. But we click on the IntelliShape feature, so it becomes a part of that part 49. So you see the difference, how they are handled in the 3D scene when you drag a part or you drag an IntelliShape into the scene, and when you use the drag and drop method. We select this one and delete, and that one too. I will left drag a part, drop it in the scene, and then I will use this camera preset, top, front, left, that one, and fit scene. Then I will left drag and drop another part in the center of that part, and then I will drag another part and drop it in the center so that we have 3 parts on top of each other, like so. And then we will use another catalog. We click on our catalog set, and we use the color catalog, and we will drag and drop this orange to red on the first one, on the first cylinder, on the first part, and then violet red on this one. And we'll go back to my catalog. If I now drag this part to the catalog and drop it there, you will see that it keeps the color. And if I left drag this IntelliShape, drop it in the catalog, you will see that this one is not red. This means that the color is connected to the part and not the IntelliShape. Well, next step, we will select this one, and next shift select, and that one too, and then we click on the assembly tab and click on assemble, and now we have made an assembly of these 3 parts. And we will also go to the property browser, and we will change the username. We type test SMST and copy and paste in description, and the part number will be 401. So press enter. Now when we have made our assembly, we will left drag this one and drop it in the catalog, and as you can see, name is test SMST, so the username is connected to that part, to that assembly. I deselect, and then I left drag this one, drop it in the scene, and now we got a copy of that assembly. And if we look at in this property browser, you see that the information is connected to that assembly. This means that you can make a part and you can store information, username, description, and other information in that part, drag it to the catalog, and when you drag it back to the scene, you will have that information stored in that part. And now when this one is selected, I will delete it. As another thing it's good to know is I will select this one, and when assembly is selected and we drag another assembly to the scene, this new assembly will be part of that first assembly. If we look in the scene browser, you will see that you have only one assembly, but if you click on the plus sign, you will see that the assembly that you dragged into the scene is part of that first assembly. So that's a good thing to know, that if you have an assembly selected and you drag a part into the scene, it will become a part of that assembly. I select this last one and I will delete it. Another thing we will look at, I will zoom out a bit, like so, is we left drag this assembly and we will drop it in the center of that assembly. And as you can see, the position is not quite right. The gray cylinder would be placed on top of the first assembly. And why didn't it? Well, the reason is the anchor. And the anchor is placed at top of this assembly. So it works like this. If we drag a part into the 3D scene, that part will be placed where the anchor is. So in this case, this assembly was placed where this anchor is placed, So this anchor is at the top of the first assembly. We turn on the tribal and drag to the right a little bit so we can see better, and we turn the tribal off. And now we can see why this assembly was placed at the top, because I was pointing at the center of that assembly. But if that anchor has been placed at the bottom of that assembly, it will be placed at the top of the first assembly. Now when this one is selected, I will delete it, and we select this one, and we will do some changes on that anchor. We'll move that anchor to another position. So we'll select the anchor, and we turn on the tribal, and then we left drag the center handle and drop it in the center at the bottom of this assembly, and we turn off the tribal, deselect the anchor. Now I will get in position like so. And now we left drag this assembly, drop it in the catalog, and deselect the assembly, and then we left drag this assembly, drop it in the center, and now it is in right place because the anchor is placed at the bottom of that assembly. We select this one, delete it. Well, we select this one, and then we go to the Assemble tab and Disassemble, so that we have 3 separate parts. And we'll do like this. I will zoom in a bit. As you can see, every part has an anchor at the bottom. And when we look at the anchor a little bit more, I will select this one and select the anchor, and I will orbit the camera a little bit so we can see the axis on that anchor. We'll see, like so, I think. We right click on this anchor, and we see a pop-up menu, and as you can see, you can choose drag freely in space, drag along surfaces, and you can also disallow drag. And as you can see there, in this anchor you have a magnet, and if you look at this cylinder and this anchor, you will see a pin in this anchor. It means that it's fixed, it's locked. You can disallow drag, and it works like this. I will zoom out a bit, zoom out, and then I will select and delete the parts that we have made, and then we will drag another part to the scene. We will choose this one, left drag and drop it, and as you can see, the first part we drop in the scene has that pin at the anchor. That means that it is disallow drag that's selected. You can't move it in the scene. But if you drag another part and drop it in the center of that part, and you will see that you got that symbol, a magnet, at the anchor. This means that if you select that anchor and right click, you will see drag along surfaces. So if we select that part, I will zoom out a bit, select that anchor, and then we can drag the anchor, and as you can see, it follows the surface. You can drag along surfaces. If we now drag another part into the scene, we go to Shapes, Catalog, and drag a block and drop it in the scene, right about there. And we select this cylinder, or this part, and then we left drag the cylinder. You will see that you can drag it along the surface, along the surfaces, even on the block. And when you drag, you see the anchor is changing position, and it do that because the anchor is in itself a coordinate system. And here you can see the height axis, and this one is length axis and width axis. Well, you don't see that axis, but it is there. So the Z, X and Y. And this height axis is always pointing perpendicular to the face that the part is placed. So if you drag this part, you will see that the height axis is always perpendicular to the surface. So it's no matter where you are placing it, it's always perpendicular to the face or surface. We will see more about that in another tutorial. Well, as you can see, it's by mistake it's easy to move a part in the scene. That's why it's recommended that you you keep this part in disallow drag mode, so you don't move it by mistake. We select our My Catalog, and there's something else that's important to know, that when we drag parts to the catalog, if we right click on this anchor and select drag along surfaces, and when we drag this one, left drag, it follows the surface, and then we drop it in the catalog, it is in wrong direction. I want it in the same position as in the scene. Well, if we right click on the anchor and disallow drag, and we deselect and select it in the part mode, and then we left drag and drop it in the catalog, and you can do that, though it's not possible in the scene. You can drop it in the catalog and it is in right position. And the block we have dragged into the scene, if we select that one, you will see that you see the pin. This means that this block is in disallow drag mode. Right click on that anchor. So, well, if we select the anchor and we click on drag freely in space, if that is selected, you can drag this this cylinder freely in space. It doesn't snap to anything, nothing at all. But if you change that, select the anchor and right click and select drag along surfaces, now it will snap to surface and face on everything you have, every part you have in the scene. And if you press the shift key and left drag the part, you will snap to edges, midpoints, and so on. And that's another way to move a part in the scene. To use shift and left drag, you can snap to, but we recommend that you're using a tribal to move a part in the scene to get in the right position. You can right click on the anchor, disallow drag, and then turn on the tribal and move that part. Well, now I move the anchor, turn off the tribal. I will select this part again and turn on the tribal. Well, you can move the part and place it in a right place when you use the tribal. So that's a good thing to know. We select and delete. As I mentioned before, it's important to know where the anchor is positioned, and if we want to drag a shape from the catalog into the scene, and in this case I want this part be placed in the scene in the same position as I can see it in the catalog, so I will drag it, drop it, but it will be placed according to the placement of the anchor. So the anchor will always pointing perpendicular to a surface, and in this case the surface is Y and X surface, and the height X is pointing perpendicular to that surface. And if we drag this one where the anchor is set to disallow drag and drop it in the scene, it will be placed as the other one. So we select it and delete it. So if you want a part to be placed in the scene as you see it in the catalog, you have to change the anchor into right position. So we will select this one, this part we have in the scene, and we will do a test on this one. We will change the position of the anchor, that one, and we select it. I will turn around, orbit a little bit. So as you remember, the height axis is always pointing perpendicular to the surface where the part is placed. So we turn on the tribal, we select the anchor and turn on the tribal, and then we will select this axis and right drag inside and drop it there, and we will click on move 90 degrees, okay, and turn off the tribal. Now you see the height axis is pointing in that direction. So if we now left drag and drop it in the catalog and delete this one, and then we left drag this part into the scene, and we will see in what direction this part will be placed. Well, as you can see, it will be placed in this position, and that's because the height axis is pointing perpendicular to the X and Y surface. This means that you can control in what direction parts will be placed in the 3D scene by using the anchor in the right way. So the knowledge about the anchor is important, and it's good to know, so you can place parts in the right direction. We select this one and we will delete it. Now we should look more at the anchor and how it works. We go to the shapes catalog and we drag a block, drop it in the scene, and I will orbit a little bit like that. Now we will see how the anchor works, and the parts will be placed in the scene. So for example, if we use an H cylinder, we left drag an H cylinder and we will drop it, and we drop it on this edge. So the question is, how will it be placed? Well, when we drop it, we will see that it will be placed in that direction across this face. And why? Well, as I mentioned before, that the height axis on the anchor, height axis is always pointing perpendicular to this face, or the face that is most visible. And in this case, this face is most visible, and that's why the height axis is pointing perpendicular to this face. But if we orbit a little bit, so we see that that face is most visible, and we'll drop a H cylinder on that edge, you will see that now the height axis is pointing perpendicular to this face. And it will be the same if we see this face is most visible. Drag a H cylinder, drop it on that edge, and now you see that the height axis is pointing perpendicular to that face. In that way you can control in what direction, and for example, an H cylinder will be placed. It will always be placed perpendicular to the most visible face. So that's how it works when you drop it on an edge. And that's how it works when you use the H geometries. On this side, we drag an H cylinder again, and if you drop it on this face, there is only one choice. The program knows that, oh well, this is the face you want to drop it on. But if you choose an edge like that, so now there are two choices, this face and that face. So if you drop it now, it will be placed on the most visible, perpendicular to the most visible face. And another thing that might be interesting about the anchor, well, if we zoom in a bit like this, we will see how the anchor works. We select this anchor, and as you see, it's pointing perpendicular to that face. And if we turn on the triball, and then we will rotate a little bit, right drag inside triball, and then we click on move 45 degrees, okay. And then we turn on off the triball, and we will try to move this hole. I will try to catch it to just like that, and we'll move it. You will see that the hole will be pointing 45 degrees to the surface or face that is placed on. And that's because the anchor, as you see, the height axis is pointing perpendicular to the face. And the anchor has 45 degrees angle. And once again you see that it is the anchor that control in what direction these shapes will be placed in the scene. So if I select this anchor, as you can see, the height axis is pointing perpendicular to this face, and the part as the anchor controls, it changes depending where the anchor is located in relation to the IntelliShape. So if we rotate that to the right position, we turn on the triball, and we select this axis, right drag and drop, move 45 degrees, turn on off the triball. Now the anchor is in the right place, so now we can left drag, and we'll see that the hole is perpendicular to the face. It's good to practice a little to learn more about the anchor, how it works, and you will see that it's very powerful to know how you can control parts and how they will be placed in the scene. So I will remove this part